Grüß, willkommen in einem meiner Fragens video. Welcome to another exciting video, in this case part 8 of my Napoleonische-Kriegsführung video series. In this video I'll be covering the housekeeping phase. During the housekeeping phase, the players execute the following actions. They rally routing elements during the rally subphase. They test to determine if a retreat should occur for their entire army during the victory determination subphase. And of course, they move the game turn track to the next game turn during the game turn advancement phase. Let's start with rally, as that's probably the most important thing we do in the housekeeping phase. During the housekeeping phase, both players determine if elements due to have been disrupted during that game turn recover and when they're placed back on the playing area. The element class is considered for this quality test. The commander has no impact on this quality test. First, how do you become disrupted? If a disordered element suffers a second disorder or suffers a disruption in a single fire combat due to enemy fire combat, then it is disrupted. If disrupted, an element is removed from the playing area and is eligible for rally during the housekeeping phase. Elements become disordered due to fire combat or close combat. An element recovers from disorder by the expenditure of an action. Until this occurs, it cannot move, conduct opportunity fire, or return fire, but can conduct close combat if engaged by an enemy close assault. As you can see, the key is to inflict two disorders against an enemy element within a phasing fire and movement phase. A single disorder will affect the opposing player by forcing them to expend an action to recover from disorder, which is not normally a major issue, but even when this occurs, the element is nonetheless has less actions of movement or fire combat in order to conduct, but it's not the main game. You need the second disorder, you need to disrupt those elements to get them off the playing area. Any element which has suffered disruption and has been removed in the current game turn conducts a quality test to determine if they are eliminated permanently or if they rally and can return to the playing area. If they rally, the game turn they are returned is also determined in the same quality test. If the element fails this quality test, the rally test, they are removed for the remainder of the day. These elements all recover during the night and automatically rally on the following dawn game turn if playing a multi-day game. Look at the scenario details for exceptions to this. If the element which is attempting to rally from disruption passes the quality test, they can rally after a number of game turns equal to the quality test die roll. Thus, if you roll a 1, that means they are placed on the game turn record chart one game turn after the game turn they were disrupted. They are returned during the reinforcement placement subphase at the beginning of the game turn. Let's look at an example. On game turn 2, a veteran element is removed because it was disrupted. During the housekeeping phase, it spins a 3, which means it recovers. Note, the veteran has a quality of 4, so 3 means it recovers. The element is then placed on game turn 5 of the game turn record chart. Basically, game turn 2 plus the die roll, which happens to be a 3, equals 5, which is the game turn it's returned. During the initiative phase, it's placed back on the playing area, or during the reinforcement phase, which is in the initiative phase, it's placed back on the playing area. If the element's class was elite, its quality is 5. If it's trained, its quality is 3. In both those cases, it would have passed the quality test for rally and would have been returned on the same game turn. When an element is placed back on the playing area due to rally, it is placed immediately behind its commanding headquarters. If the headquarters is not present during the game turn, it is placed once the replacement headquarters is present. This may occur if your commander is killed in combat of some description and is not on the playing area at that point in time. Quite rare, but something that should be noted. Let's now look at the test to retreat. During the victory determined subphase, both players determine if their commanders decide to retreat or forced to retreat. This ends the game, and the first player who retreats is considered to have lost and the other player is considered to have won. If both sides retreat in the same game turn, the game ends in a draw. The level of victory is dependent on which game turn the game ends, in some cases. If you're using the card system, the victory conditions are totally different. This is only if you do not use the card system. Once no more forces are scheduled to arrive as reinforcements for an individual player, players start to test for retreat during the victory determination subphase. Basically, if reinforcements are still scheduled to arrive, you never need to worry about being forced to withdraw. Psychologically, if you know you're getting reinforcements, you're prepared to stick around. Once no more reinforcements are coming around, that's when you start considering running away. Note, while unlikely, it's possible both players may fail the test and be required to retreat in the same game turn. This is, as indicated before, a draw. In the housekeeping phase, and once you're testing to determine if you have to withdraw, each player spins a d6 equal, or a number of d6 equal to the number of elements which were disrupted in the current game turn. The highest value is then used for the test to retreat. If no elements were disrupted, then no test is required in that game turn. The test to retreat is a standard quality test using the CNC quality, subtracting 5 from the die roll. This means without any other modifier, a quality 1 or higher commander can never fail a retreat test. Thus, the modifiers are the key to retreating or being forced to retreat. Depending on the scenario, a number of objectives are placed on the playing area. Any player in control of an objective gains a -1 modifier when conducting a test to retreat. In most scenarios, there are at least 2 or possibly 3 objectives. The next modifiers are the number of elements disrupted. Players total all elements which are disrupted, including those which are yet to return, and compares this with the total number of elements in their force on the playing area. For each 5% of such losses, fractions rounded upwards, that player applies a +1 modifier when conducting a test to retreat. Thus, the more elements which have been either temporarily or permanently disrupted has a big influence or modifier in forcing that player to withdraw. Let's now look at a specific example. All reinforcements have arrived for that player, and a player has suffered 3 disruptions during the current game turn. The player will need to test for retreat. The player has a total of 48 elements in his army. That's the total amount of elements disrupted or on the playing area. And 10 elements are currently off the playing area. The player would apply a +5 modifier in this case. Basically, 10 over 48 is 20.8, rounded up to 25%. Basically, suffered 25% losses. For each 5%, the modifier is a +1. The player now spins 3 dice because there were 3 disrupted elements, with a result of 1, 3 and 5. The player currently holds 1 objective. He has to select the highest value that was spun, which is a 5, and applies a +5 and a -5 and a -1 for the objective, with the result being 4. The army has a quality of 3, so the player has failed. The army must now retreat and the game ends. And so we come to an end of my part 8 of my video on Napoleonische-Kriegsführung rules, in this case looking at that housekeeping phase. Alle guten Dinge kommen zu einem Ende.